So our first question is just, what are your pronouns, if you want to share? Mine are she, hers.
Sure. My pronouns are she, hers, and hers. What are your pronouns?
She, hers, and hers.
Okay.
She, her, hers. So, and why did you get involved in menstrual equity work? Let's take it back to the beginning.
Yes, so I got involved in menstrual equity because growing up, no one ever talked to me about my period. I didn't receive education on it or a booklet. I just sort of woke up one day, went to camp, and realized I just got my period for the first time. And so I got started in this work because I wanted to make sure that young people had all of the information and resources that they needed in order to take care of their menstrual health, whether it's menstrual education, making sure they have access to free products, or making sure that I can connect them with a healthcare provider to take care of their reproductive health needs.
And with Love Your Menses specifically, do you focus on one of those dimensions more than the others, or is it more all-encompassing?
Yes. So when we first launched, we really focused on menstrual education. We really wanted to educate young people in that pre-puberty and early puberty stage. Mm-hmm. But since then, we've also have begun distributing menstrual products to people in need in the form of period care kits. And so we like to include various products and herbal tea and chocolate and put it and wrap it in a nice package and hand out to people in the community. So we started doing that during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's something that we hope to continue doing on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would argue that education is even more important because then you're educating the kids at a young age so that when they grow up where there's less stigma, et cetera, et cetera. Are your education curriculums implemented at schools, or is it at a Love Your Menses center and people come there?
Yeah, the education curriculum. I'm sorry, it's so loud. I'm just hopefully.
I actually can't hear any background noise, so it's great.
Okay, great. The education curriculum is usually done at like a community center, mm-hmm. And so we'll go to a local community center, create a flyer, and just invite people to attend. It's our hope to do these workshops in schools as well. And so, we're thinking of ways to partner with local school districts, not only in Massachusetts, but other states as well, in order to, whether it's built into their health curriculum during the school day, or if it's like an after-school program.
Okay, and so many questions about this specific part, but is it students of all genders who you see come in?
So when we did our first event, it was mainly those who identify as a girl or a young woman. However, it was open to the public. That's just who showed up. But actually this year, one of our panelists was a father talking about raising teenage girls and to also provide menstrual education for those who identify as male as well, whether or not they menstruate, because we think it's important for them to be a part of the conversation and to have the information that they need so they can support the menstruators in their lives.
Exactly. And what is a typical day in your life at work?
Yeah. So I actually do this work on a part-time and volunteer basis. Starting a nonprofit requires a lot of paperwork and fundraising in order to get things kick-started. And so typically everything I do for Love Your Menses is either early in the morning or late at night when I'm not doing my full-time job. And it's typically spent emailing people, trying to discuss collaborative partnerships, a lot of research for grants, so that way we can make our program sustainable. Because while we want to do so many things, if we don't have the financial means to do so, then we can't accomplish all that we want to. And so right now it's just spent emailing and connecting with people. I oftentimes get asked to speak to small groups of people to talk about the work that we're doing. And so that has been happening a lot. And, I just look forward to, one day making this my full-time position.
Oh my God, that would be so nice. But this pandemic has definitely put a damper on things.
Oh, yes, it has.
And by the way, I should have said this at the beginning, but if there's any question you feel uncomfortable answering, feel free to let me know, because we do want to highlight the voices of Black activists, but we don't want to force you to say anything you're uncomfortable with. So in terms of the I Am bill, are you supportive of it? And if so, why do you want it to pass?
Yes, so personally speaking, I am very supportive of the bill because I think, there shouldn't even be a bill. There should already be free products available in schools, prisons, and homeless shelters for people in need. And so I support it because, not being able to change your pad or your tampon, or not knowing when you'll be able to afford a product is just it goes against our basic rights as human beings. And, we can't control menstruating. It's a natural process. It's something that happens. We naturally bleed, and therefore we should not have to pay for products and, feel like we don't have easy access to them. And so I'm very supportive of this bill, and I hope that, it'll expand so that way all workplaces should have products for people, all hotels, all public restrooms. I think it should just be everywhere where there is a restroom. Even if there's not a restroom, I think we should just make it the norm.
Exactly.
Even in restaurants, I think it should just be a norm where wherever you go, that you can find a menstrual product. Like wherever, in any bathroom I go to, I can find tissue or toilet paper or soap.
It's interesting because I feel like a lot of legislators in the U.S. are people who don't have their periods, and I found out that there are actually some people who do believe that we can hold it in for a few hours.
Oh my.
So that's why I'm really thankful people like you are doing the work in education, because we really need that, and it's not just for people who menstruate. So in your opinion, how can people help support this cause, your organization, anything menstrual equity related?
Yes, I think people can, advocate for menstrual education in schools and in the community. I think people can support menstrual equity work by partnering with organizations such as Live Your Menses and getting involved in the work that we do, whether it's volunteering and hosting a workshop or, helping us do research, because I think there is a lack of research pertaining to the menstrual experience across, all races and ethnicities, but particularly, Black and Brown people. And so it is my hope that more people will get involved in research and from using that data to help drive better preventative care for people and treatment and support, because there are a lot of reproductive health issues that can be detected based off of your period. And so if you're able to spot those irregularities and get treatment and support for it, then, it's my hope that later down the line, people won't suffer from these reproductive health diseases that can cause infertility and other complications. So there are many ways to get involved in this work. And, I think the first step is really to talk about periods, whether it's to your friend, your family member, and just get comfortable saying the word and wanting to learn more about menstruation. And then from there, figure out what else you can do to help support this movement.
Right, and on that, actually, a queer Black-led organization for menstrual equity at a certain research event I went to, which was for menstruation, called out the society or the group because apparently multiple different people, when asked why they didn't have or ensure diversity in their samples, said that there wasn't time for it. But what do you mean by that? Are like, do you think people are hiding? What do you mean there's not time to include everyone? We're here.
Right, we're here, and
so.
we need to be included. And
Yeah,
you know, I know people are reluctant to being involved in, you know, research studies because of, you know, the history that include, you know, all races and ethnicities. And
oh, you just froze a little bit. Could you repeat what you just said?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just saying that, you know, I know some people are reluctant to being a part of research studies because of the historical context of what's happened in this country. But I think it's so important for researchers to include, you know, all races and ethnicities and ages and abilities, you know, whether someone is able-bodied or not. We all need to be included because we all have different menstrual experiences.
Right, and I just got my bachelor's in health science, and the one thing they drill into us in research and statistics is that there has to be generalizability to a sample. So the small sample has to represent the population. You can't take a sample of people of this demographic and then say it applies to everyone, because it doesn't. So that being said, if you feel comfortable sharing, have you experienced racism or microaggressions in this space?
I luckily have not, or at least it wasn't overt. No, I haven't. I think when I first got started doing this work, I didn't see many people who looked like me who are doing it. And then, you know, since the Black Lives Matter movement really kicked off and more people are speaking out, I'm starting to see other Black and brown people in the menstrual equity space, and it's just exciting to see it, and it's so needed. And so while I may not have experienced it directly, I definitely stand with and support those who have, and, you know, if I'm able to support them in any way, I'll continue to do that. But I'm just happy that people are speaking up.
Yeah. I'm Indian, so I can't really speak on it myself, but I definitely have at least witnessed, I've experienced, but I've witnessed the silencing of a lot more activists, and we're just trying to combat that as best as we can. But in your personal opinion, what could allies or non-Black, Indigenous people of color do to uplift marginalized voices? And if you answer this question, thank you for your labor, because I know it's not your personal job nor anyone else's.
I guess what they can do is give us the space to really speak, and speak openly and freely without feeling shamed or judged. Support us financially. So a lot of us do this work because we're really passionate about it, and, you know, we want to help our communities, and a lot of us do this work for free. And so, you know, if our allies are able to donate and support us, you know, I definitely recommend that. And I would say, and when our allies are in spaces where there are no Black or brown people, just keeping that same energy, and, you know, really advocating for us even when we're not in the room. And so I definitely just caution people to not be performative and do these actions just to show face, but to actually mean what they say, and behind closed doors, and making sure that their actions are uniform, whether they're around us or not.
Yes. Yeah, integrity is huge in this, I think. And overall, what do you think is the most overlooked part of menstrual equity work?
Um, that's a good question. I think when people talk about menstrual equity, they really do it through a global lens. And yes, menstrual equity is a global issue that needs to be addressed across our world. But I think some of that it's not a problem here in the U.S. and that everyone in the U.S. has access to free menstrual products and education and resources, and therefore all of our time and resources should be spent overseas. And that's just not the case. You know, there are plenty of people, whether they live in a city, the suburbs, or a rural area, who experience period poverty every single day. And so I think it's oftentimes overlooked from a philanthropic point of view. And so I just wish, you know, more philanthropists, grant makers, and those who want to support this work really support those here in our own country who are making sure people who are living here in the U.S. have what they need just as much as they're focused on what's happening overseas. And you know, while there are some differences and different needs, period poverty is very much prominent here, just as it is in other countries.
No, I completely agree. And people tend to have this misconception that countries in the global south are less advanced in this than we are, but actually it was found that there are programs in Uganda and Kenya that are much more advanced than us, where they're teaching menstrual education to the little boys and the little girls at the schools at a very young age, and they're teaching everyone, and they have teachers of different genders as well. And people there's definitely that Western savior complex, but people don't recognize the issues in our own country. So thank you for pointing that out. And what do you think the ideal end goal for menstrual equity activism is? You can answer that in a global context or in the U.S., in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the end goal, well, for me, from an education point of view, the end goal would be making sure that, you know, menstrual education is in every school across the U.S. So where people get it at an early age, boys and girls, no matter what school they go to or how they're raised, or, you know, what city or town they're living in. And so that is my end goal, just making sure everyone has the education regarding menses, as well as, you know, it would be great if products were free in general. I don't think that will ever happen, just because of the capitalistic society we live in. But, you know, I guess in lieu of that, you know, the goal would making sure that there are products in everyone's hands, you know, regardless if they have a home or not, if they're in prison or not, you know, if they're in school or not. So, yeah.
Right. And are there any misconceptions you'd like to address about anything?
No, I think we covered it. I guess that anyone can get involved in this work. You know, oftentimes when we talk about menses, people always think, oh, that's only something that an OBGYN or a pediatrician should talk about and get involved. But no, everyone should get involved in menstrual equity work. You don't have to be a doctor or a nurse or a health educator. You know, you could be someone in finance, and maybe your role in menstrual equity is really tackling the pink tax and making sure that there are no taxes on feminine hygiene products, you know, and really talking about the economics behind that and how that causes a financial burden to a lot of people. Or if you are a teacher, you know, maybe your role in that is, you know, incorporating menstrual education in your classroom. And so I think everyone can play a part in the movement, and you don't just have to be a public health or medical professional to do so.
I love that. And I love how you pointed out that a lot of people in this space do the work for free, because I feel like it came to a point where the work kind of got glamorized. And hey, if you do this work, you might get brand deals and you'll earn a salary, etc. And people didn't realize how many people were doing free labor just out of the kindness of their heart, or perhaps being taken advantage of. And it's definitely important to highlight that. So thank you. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to do this interview. I know things are really chaotic right now. So I appreciate it. If there's anything else you want to say, go ahead.
No, I think that was it. But, thank you so much for providing me with the space to speak. And feel free to email me if any questions or concerns come up.
Okay, sure. Thank you.